Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Hacks in Las Vegas, Nevada. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that middle seats to Las Vegas in the middle of the week may seem like a low point in your life, but having sex with your Postmates driver? Now that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Max Singer. Max, how you doing today?
Oh, today's episode is brought to you by $5 Lobster. $5 Lobster, a Vegas institution that may be the riskiest thing you do that weekend.
Oh my gosh, well, Max, this week we are diving into a show that is about to end tonight with Hacks. We are going to be talking about the pilot episodes of Hacks today. But before we do so, maybe you're just a fan of Hacks and you're like, let's go back. Let's rewatch them all before the finale tonight. Or you're here for the first time. What's this podcast all about?
Yeah, this is super fun to get to do. I think the last time we went back and watched a pilot before a finale was Secession. So go back and check out that episode in our banks if you want to get a feel for like what it's like to take that stroll down memory lane before a big old finale. But here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilots and making us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes, like the Secession one perhaps, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And before we dive too deep into Hacks, I almost said Succession for some reason.
Not like we're talking about it.
Yeah, no, a quick word from
Has it come
our
up?
sponsor.
Hey there, frequent flyers. This week's episode is brought to you by Riverside. Riverside has been the go-to platform for TV Pilot's License when it comes to recording this podcast. You can record crystal clear audio and video all in one place, and when you're done, Riverside makes it super easy to edit your show and put together pre-formatted clips for social media promotion. Not a podcaster? Not a problem. Riverside is fantastic for hosting live streams, creating educational content, putting together marketing materials, interviews, and so much more. So whether you're looking to finally get that podcast idea off the ground or take your show to the next level, Riverside is the platform for you. Get started by clicking the Riverside link in the description of today's episode.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper into Hacks with a quick synopsis. Hacks explores a dark mentorship that forms between Deborah Vance, a legendary Las Vegas comedian, and an entitled outcast 25-year-old. I love that we don't name the 25-year-old. It could be you listening right now while doing your laundry. But Max, can you tell us a little bit more about how this show got made?
Today we are talking about the pilot episode of Hacks titled There Is No Line, which originally aired on May 13th, 2021, and the show's trio of creators, Lucia Aniello, Paul Downs, and Jen Statsky. The trio behind today's show all previously collaborated on Comedy Central's Broad City. Aniello and Downs performed together at the UCB Theater in New York with Alana Glazer and Abby Jacobson and helped create the original digital shorts. Statsky and Aniello performed sketch comedy in the city at this time, and she would join the TV version of Broad City in 2015. Aniello and Downs met in UCB 101 and created their website and comedy production company, Paulilu Productions, in 2007. In 2017, they co-wrote the feature film Rough Night, which marked Aniello as the first woman to direct an R-rated studio comedy in nearly 20 years. The duo has also been married since 2021. So, hey, maybe that special someone is in your UCB 101 class. Maybe you say yes and to that pretty little thing that's catching your eye. You know, you can find true love anywhere. Statsky served as an intern at Saturday Night Live, The Onion, and Conan while growing her Twitter following in the late 2000s. In 2011, she was DM'd by Tonight Show writer A.D. Miles, who encouraged her to apply for a staff writer position. Along with her work on Broad City, she has served as a writer on Parks and Rec, Hello Ladies, and The Good Place. The inklings of Hacks date back to 2015 and stem from wanting to pay homage to the trailblazing women in the entertainment industry who have been under-recognized for their accomplishments, and a redemption story for those who did not get one in real life. Although the character of Deborah Vance bears a lot of similarities to Joan Rivers, the creators insist she's an amalgamation drawing from Elaine May, Phyllis Diller, Paula Poundstone, Elaine Boozler, and Rita Runder, among others. Jean Smart was the first choice for the leading role and signed on while the production was still in the earliest stages of development. To play across from the Emmy-winning Smart, the trio was blown away by someone who was not on their radar in stand-up Hannah Einbinder. The show was first pitched in 2019, and with a boost from executive producer Mike Schur, was picked up ahead of the launch of HBO Max in May 2020 with a 10-episode order. Filming for Season 1 took place under strict COVID protocols, meaning most of the show's ensemble only met in person when they arrived to set. Today's pilot is also directed by creator Lucia Aniello.
Max, I was trying while you were doing that. I was like, zip, zap, I don't know. I'm not as clever as you, but hey, we're figuring it out. Let's punch it up a little bit.
You want to work as many improv games into your vows as possible. You want to do as many bits when you're at the altar as possible. That's what everyone who came there to see you wants to see. They want to be subjected to forced improv.
Yeah, you could do some prop work. You could maybe even just don't bring a gun. Like, don't bring a gun into the vows. That might be a little bit much.
And if you're going to get the object work right, hold it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. But Max, let's dive into this pilot, and let's start off with the cold open, which is such an interesting way of building authority in our main character of Deborah Vance. Rather than seeing her tell a single joke, nope, we just get curtains down and seeing what life is like as someone who does have a regular stint in the Las Vegas Strip, and what life might be like going from the stage to QVC to an empty home where you're feeding your dogs better than I eat on a daily basis. What do you think of the opening of this show?
I love this establishing shot so much. From how we start from behind Deborah, looking out at the crowd and slowly panning in on her, to this whole track shot through the catacombs of backstage and everyone she interacts with. What it says to me is we are seeing the version of Deborah that she wants you to see. We're seeing this put on persona is kind of what I felt, that we don't see her face at first. We see the crowd, we see the glamour, we see Vegas, and there is just this sense of everything is a show, everything's being put on, from her moving from one gig into another until we finally bear witness to the true Deborah, the mask and the wig coming off. And despite all that glamour, all that fame, she is sitting alone, feeding her corgis 2 oven-ready dinners at a massive kitchen island.
Yeah, it was amazing how we went from such a grand high, right? Not only 1 trip on a PJ, but 2 trips on a PJ. Not only selling out of your bath caddies on the QVC another time and a photo shoot for the comedy album with Santa, but then that low of loneliness, of maybe this is all that life really is, are those moments by yourself with your dogs, was haunting. And it immediately hooked me in to be like, what in the fuck am I watching right now? Because I want more of it. And to go from someone who is being so successful immediately to meeting our other co-lead, Ava Daniels, this woman who is basically blacklisted from Hollywood for a joke that we don't get to hear yet. I think is really a smart thing, and I want to talk about a little bit later. What do you think of this Ava Daniels character?
I love the energy shift from Deborah to Ava. I love the the color and visual shift from dark and moody Vegas into very, very bright, glassy Hollywood management office. And I like that we don't entirely know what the game is immediately. Yeah. I like that we're clearly establishing a two-hander, but we don't know entirely what it is yet. There's not a very clear, the top of the page and here's our inciting incident. There is a little bit of a build with this hinge character of Jimmy who plays into both worlds and trying to understand how he's going to play in this, how this is all going to connect together. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah, I loved that Jimmy was the glue of this show, if that makes sense. Because we've talked about shows in this instance that are focused on one star, right? And I'm going to go to like a in this instance, let's talk about Entourage, right? We focus on one Hollywood star and their rise in this instance, but then we don't really see what that manager is doing with other people until maybe a later season. In this instance, to have Jimmy be the glue that pairs up these two people on very different career trajectories is such an interesting choice to me, because it also allows us to explore the difference in relationships that a manager may have with his, his breadwinning cash cow of a client, and then the one that he is trying to throw to the wolves as quickly as he can because he wants nothing to do with them. What did you think of Jimmy in general? Because it was such a fun character to me, and very, I hate to say the most LA person, but he did seem almost like the most LA person on this pilot.
I mean, that's a title that's going to get passed around throughout this episode quite a few times. The detail that I love about Jimmy is something that Deborah says very quickly on their phone call, talking about his deceased father and how she was a client of his. And I love the dynamic that sets up here of Jimmy is trying to keep so many balls in the air. He is trying to fulfill a promise and live up to a reputation and live up to an expectation that his father laid out, and continue managing this star who could very well be in her, career twilight in Deborah Vance, while also having this bright star who seems to be getting in her own way in Ava. And it's the idea of, how do you manage these different relationships? How do you manage these different dynamics? And knowing that there's a little bit of history and backstory that's going to play into every single choice Jimmy does, that's something that you only need to touch on for that split second, that to me tells you so much about this character and like what's going to motivate them to make decisions.
Yeah, Paul Downs is truly a force in this pilot. Like he just, it's incredible what he does with the ability to shift. It is such a believable character as well in this pilot. And like even his interactions with like characters that we only see for maybe like a scene and a half, like Megan Stalters. I always screw up her name. Her Kayla is insane. We only get like a minute of her, and I want to know everything about her and
exactly.
why
And
she's
there's
in
just
the show.
There are so many spark plugs in this show. There are so many people who appear for fractions of a second, who interact with other people for fleeting moments, and yet you want to know everything about that relationship. You see someone like Kayla, and you immediately go, like, it's the quadrant. I want to see Kayla interact with every single person that I've been introduced to. I want to see how Jimmy interacts with all these people. I want to see what happens when you put someone like Deborah and her status in a room with these people. And this show to me is just all about the relationships, all about the dynamics. And I think that we set up so many, and I want to get into them a little bit more later, without giving away the entire game, which is so hard to do.
100%. Like, let's just, rather than going by point, I want to just talk about some of the characters, because I think that this is an episode that establishes characters rather than the why are we here today or what is the future of this show going to look like. It's why are you going to fall in love with some of these characters and want to know everything about them in episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many this show does. We don't know until we talk about the history of this show, or at least we're going to put up that facade right now. But I do want to dive in a little bit more into the idea of Ava and seeing the concept of someone who is so desperate and at rock bottom in their own version. And like, this might be, as you sort of foretold and aforementioned, the most LA person when they stop in the middle of the street to potentially get a gig in a writing room. And did you feel the desperation, Max? Did you feel so awkward and wanting to crawl out of your skin like I did in that moment?
Going back and rewatching this pilot, it's so fascinating to me when I think about Ava here is that she is someone who believes that she is so altruistic, believes that she is so noble, but is constantly using people for gains. Someone who I don't think, despite her intentions, has meaningful friendships and relationships. Everything is transactional, whether it's crashing into this person who she seems to think she's super tight with, this friend who got a TV deal who basically blows off Ava as, you didn't talk to me until I got this deal. Like, we are not friends, despite what Ava pleads, to some questionable decisions she makes on her own later in this episode. So many calls she makes are for purely selfish purposes. And I think the idea of someone who thinks that they are a giver who is actually a user is a very fascinating thing to set up, to have a flawed protagonist in her.
Yeah, I mean, it is such an the choice to introduce Ava as someone who is like, hey, we know nothing about why you're blacklisted, and then just start to see the impact of being blacklisted in their choices, just to ultimately have the reveal of one of my favorite things I have ever seen, which is the idea of, what if you listened to your mind when it was at its worst and you just had sex with the guy who was bringing you in and out on Postmates? We've all been there in our own shape or form. We've all had our own metaphorical sex with the Postmates guy in this instance, but it's not even the sex scene that cracked me up the most, which hysterical. The joke writing there to be like, hey, what if you couldn't find what you were looking for after you moved, is something that's very relatable. It was the morning after where we see Ava peeing, talking on the phone, and then the one night stand is like trying to like talk her up a little bit, where that moment to me I was nearly crying laughing because it's just so real.
Her Postmates one night stand being impressed by her Vitamix while pleasuring himself is so funny to me too. Like, that's such a strong one-liner joke. It's such a great bit to get as a guest star. And what I think we're really establishing here between Ava at home alone with her dinner and Deborah at home alone with her dinner is that these two people, at their core, when you break it down, are two very lonely people. They are two people whose career choices, in whatever stage of career they're at, have cost them meaningful personal relationships and has left them in this place. And I know automatically, I'm like watching this show, we're however many pages in, and I'm thinking, this is a show about comedy, but it's really a show about community. It's really a show about relationships. It's really a show about people from different backgrounds finding commonality. And that is so much more interesting than just trying to do a show about stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun on its face, because you're not gonna go into a studio, right, or a room with executives and be like, you guys, we got something different. Guess what? We're going to do a show about relationships and how to deal with loneliness, but not the male loneliness epidemic. We're going to talk about the female loneliness epidemic in this. That's not going to sell. The idea of, hey, we're going to talk about stardom in both shapes and forms as women in the entertainment industry, that's going to get some attention. And I want to talk about that other side of the coin. We talked about Deborah Vance a little bit at the beginning. I want to talk about her relationships that we start to see, including the relationship with, would you call the owner of a Vegas hotel your landlord / boss? Or what would you call Christopher McDonald in this? Because it is when I saw his face, I just smiled instantly. And I said, well, Christopher McDonald, love him to pieces. He plays one character. And I can't wait to see this character, who happens to now also not only be Shooter McGavin, but Shooter McGavin plus hotel.
Well, I was going to say, as two kids in the 90s, we have to first call him Shooter McGavin, and then we can say, again, in the same way that Ava misconstrues friendships as transactional business agreements, someone in Marty that Deborah views as a friend and a confidant has to tell her, look, we're cutting your dates at the Palmetto. We need to get fresh new life in here. We're going to get pentatonics so hot at the time of writing this pilot. And, you are the old guard, and I need to bring new things in here. And, she may view this relationship as friendship and as kinship and one that they've built up with trust over the years because he's put his faith into her to sell tickets and she's made him money. But when push comes to shove, he has a business to run. My question for you is Marty the villain, or is greater society the villain? Is Marty just a messenger, or is Marty the villain?
I was thinking about this actually before you asked it, which is really fun for me when I know that we're in tune. But I think that Marty is partially the villain. And let me explain why. Marty is partially the villain in this instance because if you have someone who is selling out their shows, right, and they're doing their job, they're filling, you are profiting off of their slots, then you're not the villain, right? You are doing good business. We do not know, and I'm saying this more from the business side of me, so small pause. If you need to take a small bathroom break from listening to this podcast, take the next minute. If you are making a profit off of this and you have the stage and all of that and it's built for this stand-up comedian, then it's going to take a lot more expenses to refurbish that space for someone new, like the Pentatonics, hypothetically, in this instance. But if you are going and you're getting constant complaints of in this instance, the theater is only half full, or I've been to a Vegas show where it was really sad. I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to call him on blast, but it was a very historic, popular act, and the theater was maybe a quarter full. And it was one of those things where I was just like you have ushers being like, hey, move up, get the best seat that you want to get. This is a really cool thing. And I had a great time, but there's a small part of you that's saying, hey, should they have this entire theater for this act in this idea or this space? Maybe there's something else that can help the hotel, especially with how Vegas is doing right now, with the considerations of gambling being available on your phone, which we've talked about. It is not a good thing, but we'll continue on a different podcast about that. So I think of it in two things, right? Don't misconstrue your boss as your friend, because they ultimately, at the end of the day, are still your boss, and they have to do what's best for them. And I think that's what Marty's doing in this instance.
Yeah, I think with Marty, he understands that him and Deborah could have a close working relationship, but there is always going to be a transactional element. There's always a fiscal element at play. And I think that he is part of a systemic issue, but if it wasn't Marty, it would be the board at that hotel. Yeah. It would be other people who are booking agents. It would be another hotel at some point. And I think this is kind of what we talked about in what inspired this trio to create this show. Deborah could be on top of the world. She could be the biggest name in entertainment, but there is always going to be something that follows her. There's always going to be ageism, sexism, this feeling of your time is running out. We establish in another very quick passing moment that Deborah's estranged, divorced husband, Frank, passes away, and his obituary is met with this story of Deborah having allegedly burned his house down. And so, she's always going to be trailed by these things that haunt her from 50 years ago. She's always going to be treated at a different level than her male counterparts, and we don't need to dive into it too much to see how the world views Deborah deep down, despite all the adoration and the fame and the wealth. There's something else that's always going to linger below the surface.
So I have a really interesting question for you, Max. You asked me about the relationship between Marty and Deborah. I want to flip that on you because there is that power dynamic relationship with you and your boss, but we also get to see the power dynamic that Deborah has with the people who seemingly are the closest with her, with Marcus, with Josephina, with her own daughter, in the DJ in this instance. Like, what are your thoughts about seeing Deborah interact with the people that she feels closest with that maybe she has forced relationships with?
Yeah, I think all these supporting ensemble people we meet, like Marcus and Damien, they're the people she calls to first for everything, yet we also see her try to boss Damien into getting her a tablet when she rage tosses it into a pool in one of my favorite visual shots.
I was dying. That was so fucking funny.
The panorama of that is just such a gorgeous filmed shot. I love the visual of that so much. But yeah, there's closeness. There's a fun boss interaction with her, but it's still an employer-employee relationship, and it's a controlling narrative. It's very clear that Deborah is someone who has to have control over every aspect of her life, in that we don't see her without her wig until she's behind closed doors, that we don't see her reaction to things in public spheres, that she controls her daughter, doesn't have this trust because of very quickly mentioned drug issues that DJ has had. And we start to slowly see it break when she doesn't have control, when Marty takes away gigs. The first time that Deb is not allowed to be the one in control, that's when she freaks out in the restaurant. That's when the sheen begins to dull a little bit. When Deb is not the one calling the shots and pulling the strings, she doesn't know how to react.
Yeah. So we've been sort of leading up to the biggest relationship, the biggest interaction that we see. And I think it's appropriate for us to talk about Ava and Deb meeting for the first time. And Max, I guess we see this, we see it very much as Ava reaching out to Jimmy, right? Being like, all right, let's do it. I want to do this. And it is not an agreed upon meeting. No one agrees to fly middle seat on Spirit Airlines ever. That is not a choice that anyone wants to consciously make. But seeing this meeting of the minds, and truly, this is like a Godzilla versus King Kong situation. You have these two powerful forces in very different veins just bashing at each other. And I couldn't look away or stop laughing for one single second, because this seems like what we've been waiting for. And boy did it deliver. But what did you think about seeing some of this joke writing and Ava's quick wit versus Deborah, the established authoritarian?
I love two characters who perceive each other as oil and water, who are actually two peas in a pod. I think it is so fascinating to see them spend 2 acts on their individual journeys and then bring them together. Two people who at the end of the day have so many similar traits, although they play them from different statuses, and are so alike yet view themselves as so different. And I love these barbs. I love the way that Deborah grills Ava on her history of her as the most important thing. Like, I am the center of the universe. You must know about me. I love the digs that Ava throws back at Deborah Vance.
Factory.
Oh my God. It's so cool that you moved to a Cheesecake Factory. Had me howling with laughter. It is such a funny joke to make fun of someone's maybe like gauche sense of style with that, and such a great specific too. And then this confrontation, this blow up over what was the joke? What was the tweet? what was the big bad that was so bad, and to reveal it, and the way that Deb responds to it, I think is fantastic. To, in her POV, not be like, you crossed a boundary, you went too far. She just views it as, your joke sucked.
Yeah.
And what Ava's retort does to her. I love this tit for tat. I love these barbs. I love the way that this comes to such a head. I don't know what you feel about the building in this. Like, when this is happening, when this is building, what are you thinking?
I'm absolutely in love with this scene. I hate to do this, but I like literally in my notes, I have like, we have the reveal of the thing that would not get a writer canceled right now in Hollywood. Let me be very, very clear. Looking back at this, I'm sort of like, oh, that's cute that that's what we think a writer would get blacklisted for, because today I don't think as much. But to have that disagreement, to have that yelling, to have that real just like going to the lowest place possible just for the Ava to leave, right? Get in the shitty little Nissan rental car. Nothing against Nissan, but that is a shitty rental car. You don't want to get that when you're at the Hertz lot. Is so perfect. And I have in my notes like, oh, you guys just like give each other a little kiss, like little kiss and makeup sort of thing. And I know that that seems silly, but it's one of those things where it wasn't designed to have a sexual tension in this scene by any means. And I know this might be coming out of like not even the field or the same stadium. I'm from the fucking parking lot. But there's something about it that I was just like, when you have two forces like this, you mentioned like oil and water who are coming to each other, you know that they're meant to be together in some shape or form. Maybe not because they want to be, but because they need to be. And to have that come to a conclusion by a car chase that we get a car chase. I was not expecting a car chase in Hacks, and it was so fucking funny just to see the Bentley come out of nowhere, chasing this little Nissan, and then Gene Smart, with great editing and great cinematography, come out of the car after the stunt driver did an amazing job in that car.
No, man, that was her. She learned to do that on Frasier.
That was actually in Designing Women. You forget about the car chase scene in Designing Women. That was all Gene. But I mean, the idea of that car chase ending in Gene Smart's character, Deb, having the punch up, I just was like, oh, of course. Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. And did you like this little punch up session, this miniature writing room in Deb's gigantic driveway?
I found it so satisfying that Ava's haymaker, her lowest blow at Deborah's personal life, is what sparked her to see this person in a new light, that she was won over by this person for being willing to go there and to like call her on her shit and kind of call out the embarrassments of her personal life. And yeah, the visual of this, you know, in your head, you could hear Flight of the Valkyrie playing as she comes barreling down the driveway in this beast of a car. And the energy that she comes out with to just start riffing and punching up and throwing it against the wall. This idea of Deb being excited. She's no longer going through the motions of Vegas and QVC. She's reinvigorated. It's such a fun note to get this person to show that other side. It gets me so curious about this relationship. I want to know more about who Deb is below her like show persona. And it leaves me in such a satisfied place.
It also has me curious about what if the tables turn, right? What happens when Ava finds some taste of success again and is no longer blacklisted and might be in a position of power over Deb in this instance, right? If you are the dealer, metaphorically, of the jokes or the sustenance, what happens when you get that power over someone who's so desperate to cling on to fame. That is in the back of my mind immediately when I see Deb give that small inkling of, oh, I really like what you do. I need to hire you. I need to have you on my staff. Not even giving that person an option. And we just sort of leave on 2 notes. No jokes about the Challenger explosion and no pantyhose jokes. I've done them all. But at which now I'm just like, wait, have you done them all? She said she wrote 30,000 jokes. So like maybe, yeah, that's how many of those are pantyhose jokes? You gotta wonder.
That's a star, baby. That's showbiz.
Well, Max, that is the pilot. But I want to talk a little bit about things that we loved about this pilot. Maybe things that you wanted to give a little bit more shine to.
Just continuing to get into how many different character dynamics we establish here, whether it is like power struggles, whether it is Jimmy and his family dynamic and what that's going to look like, the way that people use people for other personal needs, whatever Meg Stalter's deal as Kayla is in this pilot. We don't waste time getting too bogged down in over-explaining people or getting into backstories. We drop little crumbs and we move on quickly. There is so much showing to depict what these relationships and dynamics are, and I think that this is a really lived-in world from the jump that just has me excited to see where it all goes.
Yeah, I'm just excited, right? I was so close, if this was not late at night when I was watching this pilot, to clicking next episode immediately. But it was so much fun. I just do have to give some shout outs to like characters that we didn't get a lot of, but we got that like very similar to like Meg Stalter. I got it right this time. Her Kayla. I'm like, all right, cool. So Kayla is 100% gonna be like going to some festival in at least an episode. We're going to be going to a festival somewhere, and she forgot to do her job, right? There's got to be at least an episode where we find out about Jimmy and like trying to live up to his father's aspirations for him. And I'm playing in my mind of what storylines I want to see. And I have such a good feeling of like, cool, 100% it's going to happen. I just have to wait to see when the writing room decided we want to do this. Is it season 1, season 2, or maybe the last season? What about things, wait a minute moments, things that caused you pause? Were there any?
How established were you, Ava, that you're able to afford a townhome in Silver Lake? I've got questions there. Also, it's just funny that a show that came out in 2021 could have references to 2 companies that pretty much no longer exist, with Postmates having been acquired by Uber Eats and Spirit having filed for bankruptcy recently. They're just like little cultural touchstones of 5 years ago.
Yeah, for myself, I just have one big question. Did Ava eat the In-N-Out pre or post sex? That's the only one I have. We never got the answer. I'm curious. Also, put it in the comments below. What Postmates order would you be like, maybe I will have sex with my Postmates driver? Great comment for below.
Bonus points if it's your exact In-N-Out order.
Yeah, exactly. Are you animal style? Is that a good sex food? Who knows? But Max, it doesn't look like we have an in-flight question this week, unless.
Oh yes, there is, buddy.
Question.
I would be remiss if I did not let you, in particular, exit today's episode without bringing up Hannah Einbinder's die-hard Philadelphia Eagles fandom. She shouted out this team at the Emmy Awards during a speech. I am going to give you the floor for 60 seconds, and I will time it, for you to ask Hannah Einbinder as many questions as you could fit about the upcoming Philadelphia Eagles season. We have not talked about an Eagles fan of this magnitude since Kitchen Confidential with Bradley Cooper.
It's true.
On your mark, when you are ready, go Birds.
All right, Hannah. Recent news that came out that Nolan Smith was caught driving 135 miles per hour in Georgia, which now brings the question of, should we extend him? Should we keep him? He seems like a good guy, but all Georgia dogs need driving lessons. Second question, Sean Mannion, first-time play caller for the Birds. I'm a little bit concerned. Fun offense, but he didn't really call it because the Green Bay Packers offense is called by their head coach. But I have hope. The question that everyone wants me to ask is like, hey, AJ Brown, what do you think is post? I'm not too worried about that. What I'm worried about is, hey, I love Jalen Hurts more than anything, but is he the right quarterback for this system? Final thing is Nick Sirianni, how many games are they going to give him until they fire him? I think he gets 7 games.
10 seconds.
And if he does not win 5 of the 7, I think he gets fired midseason. So those are my questions.
And time. Justin under the wire.
What a 1-minute drill over here. But boy, Hannah, if you'd like to reply, we'd love to have you. But also, if you want to see what Hannah's reply possibly might be, make sure to follow us on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also, if you want to submit an in-flight question that has to do with the show or maybe just my Eagles fandom, you can go on tvpilotslicense.com or shoot us a voicemail or a text message at 213-290-1713. Max, let's talk a little bit about the history of this show. This show has 5 seasons and 47 episodes, with that last episode coming out tonight. The day that this episode comes out. If you're listening to it after the date, that's okay. It's all cool. But have some fun and know that every single episode that this show will have is already out. The show debuted with a 2-episode release, and then what they did for the first season was they did 2 episodes every single week, which is pretty interesting, and then it got renewed right after that final episode of season 1 debuted. That being said, the show was also debuted in the UK on Amazon Prime Video, which I found to be a little interesting twist. Let's talk about awards. Ready for some gaga numbers for only 46 episodes of TV Max?
Baby.
226 nominations, equating to 82 wins. Let's just talk about the things that they've won rather than noms. That includes 5 Critic Choice Awards, 3 Director Guilds, 5 Golden Globes, 3 SAGs, 5 Writer Guild Awards, a Peabody, 3 Creative Emmys, and 9 Primetime Emmy Awards. So, boy, Deb, you got room. Let's put those gaudy awards in that gauche living room. But, Max, that is the history of this show. But before our plane comes to a land, I have 2 questions for you. And the first is, based off the pilot and the pilot alone, are you going to watch more of this show? It'd be really, really funny if you said no. Like, that would be, what a turn, what a pivot. And then the second question is, this takes the entertainment industry from a different angle than we've seen. We've even mentioned that this is approaching entertainment from a very particular new angle. Do you want to see more shows like this exist? And maybe, do you even have a pitch for one that you'd like to see?
Yeah, I mean, this is an obvious yes for me. I think that going back and rewatching this pilot, I was just awestruck with how, like, built out it felt from the jump. And like, there's things that you could be like, oh, it's interesting to see that not fully developed yet, or like this choice here, but it looks great. It's written well. I just think that this is a wonderful pilot. And with your second question, when we talk about entertainment shows on this podcast, we talk about like, oh, the downfall is often about like, they're just about this one thing. This is the antidote to that. This is the antithesis. This is a show that is about comedy, but as we've established over the last 40 minutes, is about so many other things. And it really is. And this is what it takes for showbiz shows to succeed. Obviously, it's going to win Emmys because TV people love hearing stuff about TV. That's obvious. But there is so much more to Hacks, and it doesn't hurt that the joke writing in the stand-up show is also pretty good to boot.
Yeah, they do a good job of performing the thing that they say that they're good at. Like, I'll start off with the would I watch more based off the pilot and the pilot alone. Yeah, no shit. I've been talking so I don't remember the last time I talked this glowingly about a show throughout the entirety of the pilot. But this is one of them, and I'm just so impressed by this pilot in every single way. It truly, for the wait a minute moment, my number one is that, like, hey, Rose Abdu is in this pilot for a minute, and she had one of the funniest lines in this, and we didn't get any more of her, and I wanted so much more. That being said, as far as entertainment industry shows, yeah, if you have writing like this and you have depth to your characters and like storylines that actually can appeal to everyone, not just people who are in Hollywood, then I'm gonna watch every single fucking one. This show, and this is gonna sound like the weirdest pivot. Am I hitting them out of the park or throwing them back into the park from another parking lot? But this show reminds me of Louie when that first came on the air, where Louie, when it first was on the air, was so special because it was, hey, this is about a stand-up, but life outside of that and how that affects life. And it was so good. And we'll probably do that pilot at some point in time on this podcast. And it reminded me a lot of that, of good joke writing and being relatable in some shape or form, even though you have nothing to do with that career. So make more shows like that are original stories, and I'm going to eat it up every single time. And it doesn't hurt that this cast is just amazing, just filled with A-grade players the entire time. Well, Max, that is this flight, and that is this episode. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you'd like to be found. So, Max, where can folks find you?
You can catch me decorating my home like your local Cheesecake Factory and on all things social media at Maxwell Sang.
And you can find me on the middle seat of a Spirit Airlines flight. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at TV Pilot's License. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate it so much. Even the nasty comments, they're a great engagement for us. So, like, hey, if you have something nasty to say, I appreciate it. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can email us at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com. You can go to tvpilotslicense.com or shoot us a voicemail. Leave us a text at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Excellent.